Good morning, children. Today we are going to start with a new chapter, tissues. In the previous chapter we have discussed about the cells, the structure and the components of the cells. And that chapter we have discussed there are unicellular organisms, they are having only one cell. And in one cell itself, all the functions are taking place. Respiration, excretion, nutrition, like this, many activities are taking place in a single cell in unicellular organisms like a amoeba. But in case of multicellular organisms, there are millions of cells in which many functions takes place. And in multicellular organisms, we can see that many cells are there, all of them having different functions. And in multicellular organisms, we can see one more thing then, in different same kind of cells are present in different parts of the body, and those cells perform different activities. It means then the work is divided, or the labor of each cell or group of cells divided, and they perform only or similar functions. So, one example, in human beings, we know in human beings what happens, muscular cells are there, muscle cells are there. Those cells perform contraction and relaxation that makes movement in the body. The same way, there are many other cells like blood cells are there. These cells, they transport food materials, they transport waste materials, they transport hormones, they transport many other things from one region or from one part to another parts of the body. So these cells are having similar functions. So blood cells, they are having a particular function. Then we can see that muscle cells, they are having some other type of functions. Nerve cells, what they do, they transport the electrical signals from our different parts of the body to the brain or to the spinal cord. So like this, nerve cells perform a function. So here we can see a group of cells, they are having particular or similar functions in different parts of the body where they are present. Okay. Now we will see like this group of cells that are similar in structure and perform a particular function, they are called tissue. What are called tissue? A group of cells having similar structure and perform similar function. I told you already, nervous tissue, nervous cells, group of cells or nervous tissue, they are similar in structure and they perform only one or a specific function, similar function. Or another example we discussed, then the blood tissue, group of cells. These group of cells or tissue, they are similar in structure and they perform similar function. The same way I told you about the muscle cells in human body or in animal body. They are similar in structure, almost similar in structure, and they perform similar functions. That means contraction and relaxations. Like this, group of cells that having a similar structure and they perform similar function, they are called tissue. Group of cells having similar structure and similar function, they are called tissues. Okay. Now we will discuss whether the plants or animals having similar or they are made up of similar tissues. No. In plants we can see they perform many activities. Mainly they are fixed in one place. They are not able to move from one place to another place. One more thing we can see, they grow, but they are having limited growth. Only few parts of the plant grew. But in case of animals, they move from one place to another place and they grow, means how all the parts of the body grows. So like this, the functions are different. So the type of cells or tissues present in them are also different. Then let us discuss what are the different plant tissues or tissues present in the plants. In plants, we can see mainly meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Two types of tissues present in plants: meristematic tissue and complex or permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues means we know that the growth of the plants takes place only in certain parts of the plant body, not everywhere. We can see the growth at the tip of the plant or tip of the stem, or we can see the growth at the tip of roots. So like this, the growth is limited, or growth we can see only in certain parts of the plant body. So here, wherever the growth takes place, there we can see the presence of some growing tissues or dividing tissues. As we know, the cells are divided. As the result one happens, the growth takes place. Multiplication of cells takes place, means the cells divide, and as the result we can see the growth takes place. Growth means the enlargement or the development of plant parts we can see. So in such certain areas or at the growing areas, we can see a specialized type of tissues, group of cells. They are called meristematic tissues. So meristematic tissues are present at the growing region of the plant body. Maybe at the, or they are present at the tip of the stem, or they are present at the tip of the roots, or they may be present on the lateral side of the stem where the growth takes place. So meristematic tissues are growing cells, they can divide. Okay, these cells, these meristematic tissues, on the basis of the location of these tissues, on plant body, they are classified into three: apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary. Okay, apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary. Apical meristem means those meristematic tissues or group of cells, they are present only at the tip of root and the tip of stem where the growth takes place. They can divide. The rapid division takes place there. As the result, the stem grows and roots grow. The second one is lateral meristem. Lateral meristem, these meristematic tissues are present on the lateral side of the stem. We know the lateral growth of the plant takes place. How? The girth of the plant increases. Girth means, we know, the stem becomes widening, becomes large in size. The growth towards side, all the sides. So it becomes very large in size. The girth of the plant increases because of what? Because of the multiplication of what kind of meristematic tissues? Lateral meristematic tissues. So lateral meristematic tissues are present on the lateral side of the stem. It causes the girth of the plant body or the growth of or development of the stem towards side, all the sides. The third one, intercalary. Intercalary is actually intercalary meristematic tissues. These meristematic tissues are at the base of the leaves. We can see at the base of the leaves, or we can see them in the region where the internodes are there. Internodes means, we know, the point or the part from which the new buds or leaves are formed. Suppose a stem, one leaf is formed on one place and another leaf on the another point. In between these two nodes, there is a space. This space is known as what? Internode. So here the elongation of this internode takes place. How? Because of the presence of this intercalary meristematic tissues. Okay, so we have discussed the plant tissues are present in plant. They are of two types, meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues, they are dividing cells or they are growing cells. They are present at the growing region of the plant body. On the basis of the location of these meristematic tissues, they are divided into three: apical meristem, lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. Apical meristem, where are they found? They are found at the tip region of root or stem, where the growth takes place because of the division of these cells. Lateral meristem, they are present on the lateral side of the stem, which causes the growth of the stem sidewards. Third one, intercalary meristem. This intercalary meristem, they are present in between the nodes or at the base of the leaves, which causes the elongation of stem. Like this, meristematic tissues are three types. Okay. As the cells of the tissue are very active, they have a dense cytoplasm, very thick cytoplasm, and they have a thin cellulose walls. Already we have discussed that plant cells, they have a cell wall which is made up of or which are made up of cellulose. So here we can see in meristematic tissues, they are having, or those cells are having dense cytoplasm, very thick cytoplasm and very thin cellulose cell wall, and they have a prominent nuclei. Prominent nuclei means a well defined nuclei or nucleus is present in the cell, but they do not have vacuoles. These meristematic tissues, they may not have vacuoles. Okay, these are the points about meristematic tissues. So next we are going to discuss on permanent tissues. Permanent tissues, we know these meristematic tissues help the plants in growth because they can divide. They have the ability to divide, multiply in number. But later what happens, these meristematic tissues become permanent tissue. Permanent tissue, this process of taking up a permanent shape, size and a function is called differentiation. Means here these meristematic tissues at first they divide, as the result the growth takes place. So the cells which are divided becomes what, or they may achieve what, a permanent shape, a permanent size and a permanent function. So such a development takes place in this divided cells or divided meristematic tissues. Such a process is known as differentiation. Okay, what is called differentiation? Differentiation means it is the process of taking up a permanent shape, permanent size and a permanent function. Okay, so these cells of meristematic tissues differentiate from different types of permanent tissues. So first meristematic tissues only at the tip of the region, apical meristem, then lateral meristem, then intercalary meristem. After division what happens, these tissues becomes permanent, permanent in size, permanent in shape and permanent in function. This process is known as becoming permanent size, permanent shape and permanent function. This process is known as what? Differentiation. So after differentiation, these cells or these meristematic tissues become matured or they become permanent tissue. Now we are going to discuss on permanent tissue. There are different types of permanent tissues, or these permanent tissues can be divided into two: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Okay, permanent tissue can be divided into two: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissues. We will see what are the different types of permanent tissues, simple permanent tissues. Okay. A few layers of cells form the basic packing tissue, and this tissue are called what? Parenchyma tissue. Parenchyma tissue. So first one, in simple permanent tissue, the first one, parenchyma tissue. We will see. This tissue consists of relatively unspecialized cells with thin cell walls. They are having very thin cell walls. Which one? Parenchyma tissues. And they are live cells, not dead cells, living cells. They are live cells, and they are usually loosely packed. Loosely packed means there are some spaces in between them. Here in this diagram you can see in between these cells there are some spaces. Intercellular spaces are there. So this simple permanent tissue, first one parenchyma, they are having very thin walls, and they are loosely packed. It means that they are in between them there are intercellular spaces, and in these intercellular spaces and this tissue means parenchyma tissue provides plants support, provides support to plants and also stores food. So parenchyma tissues, they provide support to the plant, they store food. These two are the main functions of what? Parenchyma tissues. So parenchyma tissue, they are having very thin cell wall, they are loosely packed, there are intercellular spaces in between the cells, and they provide strength or support to plants, they store food. In some parenchyma tissue we can see chlorophyll. If chlorophyll is present in parenchyma tissue, then they are called Sclerenchyma. If parenchyma tissue contains chlorophyll, then they are called Sclerenchyma, and it helps in photosynthesis because chlorophyll is present. So this chlorophyll is needed for performing photosynthesis. Okay, so in parenchyma tissue, if chlorophyll is present, then they are called Sclerenchyma. In aquatic plants, we can see there are large air spaces in between these parenchyma. In aquatic plants like lotus or lily, we know they are in water, they grow in water. So in such plants we can see in some parts of the plants there are parenchyma tissues, and these parenchyma tissues are having large spaces in between this parenchyma, and this help these plants for buoyancy, or it provides buoyancy to the plants. What is the meaning of buoyancy? Buoyancy means to balance or to float on the water surface. Buoyancy. It's an ability to float on water. So here this particular ability is given by the air which is present in between or present in the intercellular spaces in between parenchyma tissues. Okay, so parenchyma of stem and roots, here also they store nutrients and water. So these are the points about parenchyma tissue. Once again, the permanent tissue divided into two: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. In simple permanent tissue, first we discuss about parenchyma tissue. What are the features or characteristics of parenchyma tissue? They are having very thin cell wall. They are loosely packed. there are intercellular spaces in between these cells. In some of the parenchyma tissue contain chlorophyll. This chlorophyll helps them for performing photosynthesis. Okay. Then parenchyma tissues, they store food and they store they provide strength or support to the plants. In aquatic plants, in water plants, these parenchyma tissues are present. The intercellular spaces is occupied by the air. Because of this ability, the plants can float on water, or it can give buoyancy to the plants, means the ability to float on water, and they help to store nutrients and water also in aquatic plants. Okay. Now we are going to discuss on the next type of simple permanent tissue. It is called Sclerenchyma tissues. The flexibility of the plant due to the presence of what? Sclerenchyma tissues. The flexibility of the plant. Some kind of plants are there which are flexible, having very weak stem. So such plants or such stems are made up of Sclerenchyma tissues, and this Sclerenchyma tissue allows easy bending in various parts of plants like leaf or stem. We know some plants are having very weak stem. Those plants can bend, or those leaves may bend easily. This bending is possible because of the presence of what? This Sclerenchyma tissues. And it also provides mechanical support to plants. And we can find this tissue in leaf stalks below the epidermis. The cells of this tissue are living elongated and irregularly thickened at the corners. There is very little intercellular spaces in between them. So here, this Sclerenchyma tissue in leaf stalks we can see, or at the or below the epidermis. We will see what is epidermis. Then these cells are living cells, and what is the structure? Elongated and irregularly thickened at the corners. Elongated cells and irregularly thickened at the corners. In this diagram you can understand that structure. So, and there are very little intercellular spaces. They are little bit loosely packed, so that in between little spaces we can see, air spaces we can see. The third one is the Sclerenchyma tissues, another type of simple permanent tissue. This Sclerenchyma tissue is the tissue which makes the plant very hard and tough. Here we know the coconut tree, the husk of coconut. You have seen the husk of coconut. So here it is made up of Sclerenchyma tissue. The husk of the coconut is made up of Sclerenchyma tissue, and these tissues are dead, means dead cells, not living cells. Okay, and they are long and narrow as the walls are thickened due to lignin present in them. So here we can see that they are narrow, means very not wide, very narrow, and they are very strong because of the thickened. The cell walls are very thickened due to the presence of another one substance called lignin, Lignin. Okay, they are very thick and tough because of the presence of lignin. Lignin means a chemical substance which act as cement, or which make them very hard. So this lignin is present so that these tissues, Sclerenchyma tissues, are very strong and tough. Okay. So as they are very thickened cells, they are not having any intercellular spaces in between them. It means that they are these cells are group of cells are very tightly packed. In between there is no space, or there is no air space in between the cells. And this tissue is present in stems, around the vascular bundles, or in the veins of leaves, or in the hard covering of seeds and nuts. It provides very strength to the plant parts. Okay, we discussed simple permanent tissue: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Then diagrams are also there. Please go through the textbook, then you will understand very clearly. Okay. So today we discussed many points related with tissues. What are called tissues? The group of cells having similar structure and similar functions. These tissues, there are many tissues are present in animals and plants. In plants, we had discussed firstly about the plant tissue. There are two types of plant tissue. What are they? They are meriscemery tissues and permanent tissues. Meriscemery tissues, what are called meriscemery tissues? They are the tissues present at the growing region of the plants. Growing regions like the tip of the root or tip of the stem. These meriscemery tissues are classified on the basis of what? Basis of the location where they are present. So there are three types of meriscemery tissues: apical meristem, lateral meristem, and the intercalary. Apical meristem are the meriscemery tissue present at the growing region of the plant parts like root and stem, where these cells divide very fast. As the result, the growth takes place. The lateral meristem, they are the meriscemery tissues present on the lateral sides of the stem, which helps the widening of the plant body or widening of the stem. Third one, intercalary meristem. These tissues are present in between the nodes, nodes, or they are present in the internodes or at the base of the leaves. Next, we discussed permanent tissues. How do they form? These meriscemery tissues, after division, they get matured. They become permanent in size, shape, and function. These permanent tissues are of three types, mainly parenchyma tissues, collenchyma tissues, and sclerenchyma tissues. Parenchyma tissues, they are very thin, and they are loosely packed so that spaces are present in between these cells. So these spaces are called intercellular spaces. These parenchyma tissues are present in aquatic plants. So these parenchyma tissues help them for storing nutrients and water. And intercellular spaces present, and the air is occupied in these intercellular spaces, so it helps the plants for buoyancy or to float on the surface of water. Parenchyma tissues, if they are having chlorophyll, then they are called sclerenchyma, which are very helpful for performing photosynthesis. The next simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. This collenchyma is they are flexible. They are present in the weak stem of plants or in leaves. They help the leaf for bending or the stem for bending. We know as the weak stems are present or they can bend easily. So this bending is possible without breaking because of the presence of this collenchyma tissues. They are also having cell wall, and these cells are not much closely packed, but little space, intercellular spaces are seen in between these cells. The third one is sclerenchyma tissues. They are very thick and stuff. They are dead cells. This kind of cells are found in the plant parts like a husk of coconut. They are very thick. and these cells are very elongated and very thick because of the presence of what? Lignin, a chemical substance which acts as a cement. So that these cells or this tissue can provide strength, very strength to the plants. So there is no intercellular spaces in between because they are very closely or very tightly packed. And this kind of tissues are present in stems and in the veins of leaves, and also they are present in the hard covering of seeds and nuts. So it provides very strength to the plants. Okay, all these points we have discussed today. So go through the chapter and write questions and answers. Questions. What are the questions? What are called tissues? What are the two types of plant tissues? What are called meristematic tissues? What are called apical meristem? What are called lateral meristem? What are called intercalary meristem? Then permanent tissues, how do they form? The next question, what are the characteristics of parenchyma tissue? Write a paragraph about parenchyma tissue and write the diagram showing. In the textbook it is given parenchyma tissue. Neatly you should draw. After that you write the next paragraph about what? Collenchyma tissue. Then the diagram you should draw. Third one, sclerenchyma tissue. Write a paragraph on that sclerenchyma tissue and draw the diagram of those tissues. So complete your notes today itself and send to me. Don't forget, don't keep it for next day. So read and study all these answers. During interaction I will ask questions to you. Okay. So we are going to wind up today. So, okay, and I wish a very good day. Thank you.